Hi.
Good evening.
How are you?
Nervous.
So, thank you for sharing your story with us tonight, and how brave is he to sit here and tell us about the journey you've been on. Nelly, 10 years?
10 years in 2 months' time.
So why did you embark on this? Tell us your story. What happened?
I'm crazy. I was having a midlife crisis, I think. In 2007, my friend Christopher and I, we used to catch up every now and again and talk about business, and he had a small business at this point in time, or pre this time. We used to talk about, wouldn't it be great to have a little store? It could be anywhere. I was thinking Tasmania, he was thinking, New South Wales. Just one of our topics. Then we were both having our midlife crisis. He sold his apartment, closed his business at that time, and was going to go and travel for 6 months. And I had been offered this fabulous job in Germany, and I thought, this is great, amazing, I'm going to take it. It was sadly too good to be true. And the night before I was leaving, 2 nights before I was leaving, I had a visa, had the working permit, everything was done. I got the call, you can't come, your contract has been cancelled, sorry, it's all over.
Oh my gosh.
I had sold my car, given away my furniture, had a big farewell party, etc.
The farewell party even.
Yeah, so
Presents?
a few days of severe embarrassment. Anyway, that was we at that point then had another conversation and said, look, why don't we think about this? When you come back from your travels, I don't know what I'm going to do in the meantime, but let's maybe look and investigate what it would be like to have a small business. So we went for a walk in Potts Point, looking at little spaces, and we walked past this one space that had this beautiful courtyard at the front. There was a lighting store in there. It was big and spacious and really, really stunning. We walked in and had a bit of a look around, and we thought, oh, well, this would be the place. If this space was available, this would be the place. It's got a great feel, and it's in the right neighbourhood, exactly where we'd want to be. It wasn't available, so we went around the corner, and there was a few more spaces around the front of the building, and down the street there was a couple more. So we started to make some calls, and we were asking about one of the spaces at the front. And basically the guy said to me, I'm really sorry, it's just been leased. However, we have a space around the corner that has a big courtyard at the front. And the people that have a business in there at the moment would like to break their lease. And we signed 2 days later. And
so hold
he
on.
didn't travel. And
Did you have any products?
No, nothing.
Did you have a business name?
No.
But they signed the lease. We'll come back to that. I think that's an important piece of information. So tell us some more. We can see some beautiful pictures of your product, you looking beautiful. Can you tell us a bit, what is the store? What do you do? What is on offer? How often are you opened? Tell us some more.
Okay, we're open 7 days a week. What we wanted to create was something that Sydney didn't have. We'd both spent a lot of our lives travelling. I was working for Qantas for many years, so I travelled all the time, and all I did was shop, 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 and shop again. I used to buy for my friends, my family, myself, and so forth. And Chris was a fashion designer, and he used to go to all the shows around the world, and so he'd been out there. And we were thinking, Sydney there's a gap in the market. We wanted to bring a new concept, which was basically a concept store or a lifestyle store. So we thought, we'll choose what we love, we'll go overseas, we'll buy it, and if we find things in Australia as well, of course, we'll buy those as well. But it's all to be our lifestyle, the lifestyle that we would like to live and create. And so that's basically the basis of the business, was for us to find fabulousness, bring it to Australia, and so people could experience new things.
So who you are and what you've done, you mentioned Qantas. Wow. From Qantas to owning a store. So how did your own personal values translate into you opening the doors? What did you want other people to experience from your own personal values?
Oh, gosh. One of the big values that I try and instill with my team is passion. And that translates into the customer, because the whole business is based on my passion and what I love and what I want to share. And so I look to create the whole experience within the store, and that's product, that's the way people are spoken to, that is passionate. So like with my staff, for example, they have to be passionate. If they're not passionate about everything that's going on in that business, there's no point in being there. And I'm very, very lucky. I have an amazing team, and they are passionate. So if I see excitement when they open a box that's been delivered, and they get excited about it, well, I know that they will be able to sell it, or they will be able to help someone buy it.
So how do you help people that may be intimidated? you see beautiful product, you see beautiful things. Is there a price point that you help people feel comfortable with? Like, is there a way that the average person can walk into your store and still feel like they're welcome?
Yeah, look, there is, but it's one of our biggest challenges ever, because one of the most important things for us is for customers not to feel intimidated when they come in the store. But that's quite difficult because the store is really beautiful and it's full of some very expensive things. But there's, across the board, product-wise, there's price points that start from, $12.95 and go up to, $30,000 or $40,000. It's very hard for us to let people know about that quickly.
Yeah.
But what we try and do is we try and make them feel comfortable as soon as they walk in. We don't try and sell to them. We try and have a general conversation with them, and then we talk about the product before we get to the price and that sort of thing.
It's an important one. So you're located in one of the wonderful parts of our city. And can you tell us a little bit about your community and who your average customer is?
Absolutely. It's really broad, actually. We would sell from 21 to 75, 85-year-olds, male and female. We don't really have a target audience, and I know that's challenging in a customer service business. Everyone has a target audience. We have to be broad because our customers are varied all the time. We have, the local schoolgirl that comes in to buy a special present, a group gift or something for a friend, and then we have, casino owners and people like that. So it's right across the spectrum.
So how do your staff distinguish between a VIP and not? And who's a VIP?
Everyone is treated exactly the same.
Because you must have lots of people that turn up in activewear.
Yeah, we have a lot of activewear.
So it's really hard to know what that person, whether they can afford the $12.95 or the...
It's absolutely correct. And I remember years and years ago, probably about 6 years ago, I can remember it was a Sunday morning. It's very quiet on a Sunday morning. A girl came in activewear. She'd been for a big walk. She had the water bottle, all of that sort of thing. And she came up to the cabinet and we were looking at jewellery and I was like, playing around. Yeah, sure, let's try it on, blah, 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 blah. And she bought, I think it was a $13,000 or $14,000 bracelet. And I did not expect that she was going to purchase anything, but it was a really great lesson for me. You cannot judge a book by its cover. Everyone has to be treated the same.
Yep, and it's so critical for customer service from that point of view. So you mentioned that it's difficult to target, but have you targeted customers? And if you do, how do you go about that?
Targeting is really hard. We don't target a specific customer. I guess what we do is we use Facebook, Instagram, and our electronic mail system, so our emails that go out, with different people in mind at different times.
Yeah.
So there's no rhyme or reason. That's not something that we sit and have a process or anything like that. But sometimes we're thinking, let's focus on fashion, let's focus on women, let's focus on men. And I guess a good example of when you can see that happening is at Christmas time. We send out probably the most electronic mail that we ever do is in that sort of 2-week period leading up to Christmas. And we would do an email, gifts for him, gifts for her, Kris Kringle gifts, so gifts under $50. That's when you sort of see art, gifts that, for your wall, gifts for your home, that sort of thing.
And so helpful for the average person that's running out of time. And those boy gifts, they're a hard find, so that's a great thing for your customers that you're providing. So tell us a little bit, you said you're nearly turning 10. You started out with a vision. Where are you now? Like, have you developed further from your initial concept, your initial ideas?
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolution. The business is constantly evolving. I think we are still quite similar, offering similar product range to what we started with. That has changed. That's gone through big cycles. For example, in the GFC times when people were spending less and so forth, we were like, we need less expensive product. We have more affordable price points. So we were filling the store with more product. But then over time, I've kind of gone back full circle, back to where we started, which was a little bit more pared back and a little bit sort of cleaner, knowing that they will still come and buy, and you can't be everything for everyone. You have to actually sometimes choose where you want to go with your product range, with your mix, and how you're going to deal with it.
So your number one sort of sales category, was that did you imagine that would be your number one sales category? And what is it?
Not at all. So when we first started, I think fashion and jewellery and homeware were literally about 25%, 25%, 25%, and everything else in between filled the rest. But in the last sort of 4 to 5 years, we've found that artwork has become our number one category significantly. And that was completely unexpected. I had no idea how that happened. And all we can say, we've asked people, and the staff have been asking clients about it and if they can give us any reason. And the comment that comes up constantly is, we don't feel intimidated buying artwork in your store because it's all set in a scene with fashion and accessories, and it looks like it's in the home.
Yeah.
Whereas in a big gallery space, it's a white wall and there's one person sitting there. It's very quiet, and you sort of sneak in and you don't want to make conversation. So that's been a really, really good lesson for us, and hence we now focus heavily on that side.
That's really interesting. And from your own experience, you mentioned that you worked with Qantas and you actually looking after their business class and first class passengers. So obviously you learn a lot about what customers expect. What would be some of the big brand messages that you learnt that you've been able to apply in your small business?
There's one funny little one that always comes to mind, and that is, I remember when we first started doing the first class training when Neil Perry took over, and that's when Qantas did a huge sort of upgrade in service in the front cabin. And one of the things that I used to train other flight attendants to do, and I was very particular about as a manager on board, was folding the toilet paper. Now, I know it sounds really stupid, but as a first class passenger, when you walk into the toilet paper edges all have to be folded under. And it was that little attention to detail that so many customers would compliment the crew on flights that I was on.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought, exactly.
Not the food, the wine, toilet paper.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, but sometimes it's this attention to detail which we've brought into our business that people love, and they remember and they talk about.
So what would be one thing that you can explain to people from your own business, is that small attention to detail that you do that you think people might think you're mad for doing, but you know it actually matters?
The way we wrap our gifts and the way we tie our ribbon.
Yes.
Basically.
Particular.
We are known for having beautiful packaging.
Yeah.
It's a big part of our business. We designed that right back in the very beginning, and we've kept it exactly the same all the way through. And I think that is an important part.
Fantastic. And so to conclude, from your own thoughts, 10 years in business, lots of lessons. What would be one of the lessons that you think you've learned and something that you would love to say to others, think about if you are starting your own business?
The biggest thing I would say is slow and steady wins the race. We expanded very quickly because the first year was amazing, and then the GFC came in, and we didn't expect the economy to have an effect on our business, and it did, and we spent a very long time getting ourselves sort of filling those trenches. That's the biggest lesson I've ever learnt, is that you just don't go big quickly. Take your time. Only grow when you can afford to grow. Don't overextend yourself too much.
And actually,
that's the number one.
There is one other question I'd love to ask now that you've inspired me to ask. When you think about growing, and one of the things that was mentioned in the introduction was this onslaught of online, a boutique business like yourself, how hard has that been to navigate? And how do you as a business translate what you do online?
It's the absolute bane of my existence, online. It has been a challenge from day one. We knew that we needed a website, so we have a website. But anyone who has been into the store, or you can see images up here, I guess, of what the store looks like, it is almost impossible to translate that look and feel onto a web page. And we haven't solved this problem yet. Yeah. We're about to we're currently doing a new website as we speak. But it's not, for me, the highest priority. Online for us is a catalogue where our customers will go and they'll have a look, and then they'll come into the store and they'll ask us about the product that they saw online, which is, can I please see this? I was looking online last night. So as long as the catalogue works, I'm happy. I don't think I can ever compete, or we can ever compete with, big online web stores. Yeah. Maybe we might join some of them one day and put our product on some of their stores, Yeah. But at the moment, it's still quite small, online, and it's challenging.
And it's interesting you should say that, because the other point to note from the beginning that was mentioned by John also was around customer experience and actually how much people actually look to others for referral. We know that 76% of transactions that people buy in store, they've looked online first. So customers, if you are going to sell a product, to think about actually the fact that people actually look first. So before they walk through your door, they've looked, they've searched, they've wandered online. So that catalogue approach, that actually being able, them investigating research is really, really critical to a business. And that's product and service, because people do shop around.
Every day someone will say to us, I was looking online last night.
Yeah.
Which means, okay, they are looking online, so we do have to keep the website.
Yeah, and it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. So look, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And people will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the evening with you personally, but also going to have an opportunity right now. So welcome, John.